Call the April 1st Select Board meeting to order. And as the first order of business, it's the reorganization meeting, so I will take any nominations for Select Board Chair.
At this time, Mr. Town Manager, I'd like to nominate Tracy Delphia to be Chairman of the Essex Town Select Board.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations for Chair? Hearing none, all in favor of Tracy Delphia as Chair of the Select Board, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Tracy, and I will turn it over to you.
Okay, with that, I will open the floor for nominations for Vice Chair.
I'd nominate Andy Watts for Vice Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations for Vice Chair? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. For the record, I voted in favor, even though I didn't vocalize my vote.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah. Moving right along, open nominations for clerk.
I nominate Kendall Chamberlain for Clerk for the Essex Town Select Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, Andy and Kendall.
Tracy.
And me. Next order of business, agenda additions or changes. I will remind the board that if you do want to pull anything from consent agenda, now would be the time to do it. Once we get to consent agenda, that will stand unless we go through the process to then amend the agenda. Any changes from staff?
None from staff.
Any changes or additions to the agenda from the board?
This may be the wrong place to note it, but I would like to thank Andy for his service as chair.
You'll hear that again during board member comments too.
Can I ask a question? Any questions about consent we can ask before we vote during discussion?
No, you have to
No.
ask him now if you want
That's
to
good.
discuss.
Oh, if you want to.
If it's a clarifying question, yes, but if it's discussion or you intend to vote against an item, you should bring it up to pull it from consent and into the business portion of the agenda. Are you good? Okay. Making sure. So with no changes or additions to the agenda, we'll move on to public to be heard. I do not have Zoom open, but if you're online, you can click on the reactions button on the bottom portion of your screen. You should then have an option to raise your hand. In addition, if you're in the room, you can just raise your physical hand and we will get right around to you. So with no further...
Betsy Dunn has her hand up.
Yep. So when you are called on, please, I lost my place. Please state your name for the record. Please be brief. Please be respectful. Please direct your comments to the chair. And Betsy, I see that your hand is up.
Oh, good. Thank you, and congratulations to all the new officers for our team. And thank you for calling me. What I would ask is that, you know, when you have meetings and we talk about places in Essex and when zoning comes up, I would like to see on the walls in this room that you are now in, to have maps of the topography, which includes the soil types, the forest blocks, the wetlands, and the zoning map. So that when we talk about it, people who are online can actually see what their people are talking, especially with the planning and the zoning as they are now in the DRB and the zoning that we'll have. It would be very beneficial, I think, to our residents to be able to see that. Thank you for your consideration.
Any other hands up online?
Mary Post.
Mary Post.
Hi, Mary Post from Essex. Just a thing to add to what Betsy said. I agree with her. I think it would be helpful to have the maps. But we also talked about that it would be nice to have the maps dated, have a date on them, because some of them are pretty old and probably should be looked at again. So that's just another thing about the maps. And my congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to the whole board. I'm very happy with the way things have been going for the last few years. Thank you so much.
Betsy, is your hand a remnant?
Remnant, sorry.
Okay. Comments from the room? Seeing none, we will move along to the consent agenda. At this point, I would entertain a motion.
Make the motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Consent items, would it be appropriate to add in a public comment on the consent items? Should we do that during public to be heard going forward?
You're right, you asked this question recently. I think for this sake, maybe since we haven't discussed it too much, probably a good time to do it now, and we can talk about how to handle it going forward.
Okay.
Meetings.
Is there any public comment on the consent agenda at this time? Okay, seeing none and hearing none. We did have a motion, we did have a second, correct?
I just have I guess, I may not correctly, but we would have to pull something out to ask a question about something. I'm just curious if they were all good. I know some of these are at least various, but if they were all in good tax standing, if that's something we were checking. Usually that's Kendall's question, but I didn't know if we had to pull that out to make it a business item to ask that question.
Probably not a bad idea to pull it out in the future, just in case if we haven't looked into it or if something comes up that we
We
can
can delay it.
not approve it or ask for more time. In this case, I will double check, but last I was told, all of the liquor license applicants are up to date on their taxes and bills.
Yes, actually, it was noted. I was going
It
to
is
note
noted.
and thank that being included. That was
Actually, yeah,
great.
it's in the memo.
All right, then I will.
All the first part.
Good. Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. On to our business items. First of our business items is consider approval of consultant for 8090 Upper Main Street Planning Project. This is the result of our RFP initiative recently. Yep, we have Aaron here, we have members of the fire department here. So in your packet, you had the RFP results, a recommendation from staff, and at this point, Greg, unless you have anything else, I will turn it over to.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to kick it off and then turn it over to these gentlemen in a moment. And also Gail Henderson King, who's been advising us on this process, is online, so she might join in as well. Just to reiterate what Tracy said, we issued an RFP for the Upper Main Street planning process. We received two submittals back. One from Wayman Lamphere, working with VHB, Vanessa Hangen Bruceland. The other submittal from Stantec. Both were pretty good. Both were good submissions. On paper, they were very similar. I think we scored them pretty much, within a few points of each other. The review team, close enough that we decided to do conduct interviews with the two teams. Aaron and Tom Richards, Aaron Martin, were part of that interview team, as was Gail, who are online, so they can be able to speak a bit to how those interviews went and where Stantec really differentiated themselves. But we feel comfortable moving ahead with Stantec. I think very high level. The public engagement piece was really interesting to us, really comprehensive. They've also done some work on these larger scale mixed use type developments that we foresee happening on Upper Main Street, 8090 Upper Main Street. They are the more expensive of the two projects. The difference is about $194,000 for the Stantec project and about $152,000 for the Wayman Lamphere project. As these gentlemen can tell you in a little bit, we think that money is well spent and worthwhile. It would be spent out of our ARPA money, so it's still coming out of the ARPA money that we have as COVID relief. We want to do this project right. We want to hear from our community. We want to make sure that our community is invested in this project, that they're taking ownership of it. It's going to be crucial to have a good, robust public engagement component to this project to get a design that people will support and hopefully understand and be proud of as we move forward. That's the overview, and I can turn it over to the members of the interview team.
Yeah, so to echo Greg's comments, one of the things that stand out for us with Stantec was their depth. When I say depth, I'm not talking about just the number and quantities of people, but the depth of their experience, the depth of their knowledge, the depth of their training. They brought to the table a number of examples, both in-state and out-of-state. I think it's important. This process is going to be significant for our community. It's going to get a lot of press regionally. And I think that we have the opportunity with this blank slate to do it right. So I think that whatever we come up with in this process, the end game is something that's going to be relevant 20 years from now as it is today. This is a roadmap that we're trying to come up with. And to build that roadmap correctly, I think it's important to have a team that has depth of experience, depth of knowledge, training, and be able to pivot if we run across times that maybe problems that arise, whether that be with permitting type or evaluation of the land, so on and so forth. In the interview process and what was on paper, it just seemed to me that Stantec had that more robust ability to do that. That's reflected in the price, but I think to a large degree you do get what you pay for as well. So I think those are the three things that stood out for me.
Yeah, I definitely to both what Greg said and to add to what Tom just said was, I was really attracted to their approach on the public outreach portion of this project. This is big. This is the town of Essex and the community coming together to come up with a new plan, a new town center, their identity, and you know, I got a good vibe. The synergy, just talking with the representative from Stantec there was great. It was very interactive, and I think the depth of experience that they do have is going to be beneficial to the town moving forward. And I realize, you know, there is a difference in the costs. I think it's money well spent for our future for the town. It's definitely putting us in the right direction. Again, we need public buy-in for this project, and I think Stantec could help us deliver. Gail, would you like to add to that?
Sure. Oh, my camera's not working, so sorry. I'm in a hotel room in Boulder, Colorado, so apologies here. I want to echo what both Tom and Aaron said, and I fully agree with this, their comments. Stantec has an extensive amount of experience doing a similar type of very large-scale master planning projects in Vermont as well as out of state. So they're bringing that depth of knowledge and experience to the project. They also have a large team that they can pivot and bring in specialists when needed, which we thought was very helpful. And especially as the project develops, I think that's going to be really important. Their experience and their knowledge of the public involvement process, which has been something that's been very critical and important to the town. They just provided in the interview a lot of different ways to approach that, and will work with the town and the town team. And again, I think that's a very important piece of this. They also reassured us that they would be able to stay on schedule, which is something that's very important for this project, to be able to come up with the master plan, come up with concept plans, come up with estimated cost, and be able to figure out different funding sources to move forward. So there's, different types of funding, grant opportunities, et cetera, that are really kind of tied into this whole schedule that we've put together. So all of those pieces, we just felt that the Stantec team was really, they just were very, what is the right word? I'm sorry. Very positive in terms of would be able to work with the town and be able to provide their expertise and experience with this project.
I think an important thing to remember here is this is a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we have. Name another community in the state of Vermont, anyways, that has had this opportunity to truly define their downtown, create a downtown. Our downtown was always the Five Corners prior to this. Yes, we had some geographic, centralized things in the town, but nothing to the scale that we're talking about here. It's important to realize that this is our opportunity to check all those socioeconomic boxes that are hot topics today, rightly so, to create a design that's going to integrate well with all of our built infrastructure. I mean, what's happened in the Carmichael Street area, as well as the Essex experience. We have some wonderful things happening there. Peter Elderman's done a great job in bringing a lot of life to that whole area up there. For the longest time, it wasn't. There's probably some opinions out there about some of the things that are there as to whether they're good or not, but nonetheless, they're there. They do attract business. They do attract people from out of state. I see this project as an opportunity to tie that very closely together with a common space that not only serves the community in this kind of a function here, but is also an opportunity for programming space, library space, recreation space, just general public open lands. There are some wetlands up there. There are some opportunities there to even create environments for that are educational for our kids that are in their school systems. There's a lot of boxes that can be checked here. Low-income housing or affordable housing, mixed use, all that can be tied in and built well in this. But it requires a good, solid roadmap to do that, because this isn't going to happen overnight. We're not going to build this tomorrow. This is going to take some time to fund and build. By having all those boxes checked and part of this project and built into this project, I really think that this group should do another step, which is, contact our congressional representatives. There may be funding out there that can help with this construction because of all these boxes that are going to be checked in this design. Likewise, there's other grant opportunities, both on the fire side, possibly on the civil engineering side, that could be tapped to maybe help with some of this. Again, it has to come out of the design process. So if we're going to spend money, to me, this is where you spend the money. The rest of the project, you can pivot, shake and jive a little bit, maybe reduce, do some value engineering, but this is the spot that you want to spend your time and your expertise, and you need a team that can really build that well. So again, going back to Stantec, that was the trigger for me. I believe they can do this. They can help us through this. Aaron said this, community engagement. This is our opportunity to creatively engage anybody that's part of this project, that's a citizen of this community, to offer their input, to generate excitement, and to get support. So again, you need a group of people that are going to come in and do that. They can't do that with one person. Stantec is coming in with a group of people to do those kinds of engagements. They're doing it digitally. They're doing it the old-fashioned way with media. They're doing it on paper, and they're doing it in person. So those are the key factors for me. We have a unique opportunity here, and this group needs to shine and come through. There's going to be opposition to it, of course.
Board member questions, comments?
What were your concerns with the other group? I mean, I see all the shiny stuff from Stantec, but what were your concerns with the other group?
I don't know if it was so much concerns. I just really think that what was offered and the discussion that ensued, anybody can put together a piece of paper and a proposal, and you do their best to put all your references in order and to identify your team and the key players of your team. I think it was very beneficial to sit down with both of the two teams that did provide proposals. And quite honestly, the Stantec team shine through. I like the interaction, and I really think it would be in the best interests of the community to have the team and the group that they put together for this project guiding us, because they're going to be our guide, not necessarily telling us what we should do. They're going to be our guide through this process. And I go back to the public outreach. I mean, that was big. Having that public buy-in is going to be critical to move this project forward.
Again, I agree. I think that goes back to the capacity component, the
As well.
experience. It's the group that they pulled together is not just large in terms of numbers, but they have staff behind them, and what they've demonstrated, at least in conversation on paper, is that that what's behind them is deep in education, deep in experience, deep in practical projects that have been built that are along the lines of what we're trying to do here. Both are very good companies.
John, I would just add, I think it was less about concerns about the other team and more just the confidence in this Stantec team. You've heard about the depth, you've heard about their ability to stay on schedule, you've heard about the public engagement piece. I think just those things together kind of really gave that much more confidence in Stantec.
Thank you.
I already beat Greg up with a bunch of questions. He answered them well.
Questions?
I just want to say that I strongly support the staff recommendation, and I agree that the public engagement is going to be really, really important for this and schedule, and I'm fully behind the recommendation.
Well, somebody's got to be the tick on the dog, and I guess that's me. I have a hard time looking at only 2 bids for this project in a short time frame, and one of those bids being almost twice as much as the other one. And they did come down a lot, but that shows the potential for a lot of extra costs going forward. And I have to admit, I was really struck by the other firm that did so many projects locally. They did the Essex experience of it. They did the police station. They did Essex Master Plan. They've done facilities in a number of communities all around us. South Burlington's new facility. I just find it hard to believe that another firm, a really large firm that is primarily focused on out-of-state projects, specific to this one, is worth that extra money over the local. Anyway, I just have a hard time. I need to hear more about why it's worth that extra money. That's just my opinion. I mean, it would be one thing if you had 2 firms and one firm hadn't done so much local work. I mean, obviously they had to get all of these local communities to support their projects in South Hero, Underhill, Essex, and everything. So they must know a good deal about how to get behind a project and do a municipal project. And I do view this primarily as a municipal project to start with. The town is not going to become a landlord. You're going to have to partner with Champlain Valley Housing or some other way for your affordable housing and some of the other things. And I think that can come later, and maybe another firm could be engaged to do that. But I just have to be honest that 40 grand is a lot, considering that their original proposal, that both had the information, they were double. So I just wanted to note that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I think when you talk about Stantec, they do have a local presence. They are doing more and more projects in our area. The other thing is that what's important, again, for this process, we need some of these newer creative ideas, and some of that comes, unfortunately, from out of state. I, too, deal with a lot of this kind of work, and I believe in local. Talk to my employer. I believe in local. But it's important that with what we're doing right now is to get that perspective. And I think that perspective, I think Stantec has an edge on that perspective of similar type projects, similar type work. I've seen what they've done at Beta Technologies. They're fully engaged in that. They did a great job down there. And I agree. I don't think that there's anything negative to say about the other company. I've dealt with them in my professional career. So fine company. When I look at the timeline and I look at what we're trying to do in the realm of all-inclusiveness in this is not just a municipal project. This is not just about putting up a few streets and a couple of municipal buildings. This is much larger than that. It has to be a roadmap to the future. And I just think that Stantec has the edge on that. And yes, I think that it's worth the extra money. And that's as a taxpayer as much as me sitting here.
I'll just make a little comment to that too, because that was one of my concerns was with the other company, was when they did the the site plan for up there. You know, we were pushed on deadlines, and what I felt was a lot of detail that could have been provided for the amount of money that we spent on the site plan wasn't provided. Like, we didn't even know how many acres were wetlands and how many acres were buildable. That was a simple, one item out of my many. But in my conversations with Greg, I don't have the expertise, but from what we've heard from other people is this company Stantec shows that they are willing to, for one, meet deadlines, but for two, give the ultimate details of individual things and present the information as needed. And that's one of the reasons I changed my mind originally, because I thought the same thing, but at the same sense of it, if you can pay a little bit more money and get what you are actually looking for, rather than redirecting and going back to them and saying, well, we're actually looking for a little bit more like this, and then you mention differences in cost when they drop their price. Well, there's nothing saying that the low bidder isn't going to say that that's outside of the scope, and then they're going to add on another 20,000, another 30,000, another 40,000. We take that risk on both sides of the coin. So those are just some of the things that I weighed in my mind after conversations. So figured I'd throw my 2 cents out there.
Any other board comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll turn it over to public comment. If you have questions, comments on this agenda item, go ahead and raise your hand in the room or your virtual hand online. Lorraine, go ahead.
Just a quick question. I did not read through the notes, so please forgive this question if I'm completely off the mark, but I heard Kendall mention that the other one helped with the the Essex experience in terms of the design, if I got that right. I just wanted to confirm that's what you were saying, because so if that's true, I struggle. I have major issues with the way that was designed and developed. So I do want new ideas comparatively, just because we know so much more than we did in terms of driving traffic and walkable communities and so on and so forth. So not saying to select one over the other, but I don't know that that's a positive thing in my view. Thanks.
Any other public comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Sorry, I'm looking over your shoulder here.
Yeah, no problem.
Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any other questions, discussion internally, or would someone like to make a motion?
I would. I make the motion that the select board approves Stantec as the preferred consultant for the Upper Main Street municipal site planning project.
And authorize the town manager to execute a contract.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't see that part of the. I didn't see that part.
Second.
I'm so sorry. I did not see that part on there.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for all your work.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is considering adoption of the tax sale policy. At the 18th was the last meeting. It seems like it's been a minute. At the last meeting, there was discussion around a revised policy. It was accepted, and we're back here to talk about what we accepted and making sure that it meets the muster, so to speak. So the proposed changes were included in the packet. Were there, Greg, did you want to add anything or?
No, yeah, I can take it if you
Okay.
want. Nope, there's no new proposed changes, so it's just as stated, as you've already said, Tracy, and outlined. It's the same as what was accepted at March 18th. We didn't put any other items in there, and we can go over changes if folks want or have any questions. But other than that, it looks the same as what was accepted last time, and it's just put in here because there were some rather large changes, and that's the best practice that we follow.
So the one that says revised 4/124 is the one we're approving. Is that what you're?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yep. And in there, you should be able to see the changes clearly as from the old policy to what would be if approved tonight, what it would happen, what would be cut and what would be added.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions, comments from the board?
I would just like to request that the policy, once it's approved, that we review it with all of the select board of policies each year, if at all possible. I do think that the tax sale policy, at least in the short term, couple years, is an important policy that should be looked at by each board as it comes in. Just trying to get ahead of the delinquencies. This is pretty close, but I would offer that as an amendment to the approval of the policy, that we just relook at it in a year's time or so.
So to clarify, you mean to bring it up with the conflict of interest, the ones that are also on this agenda, that is the first agenda?
Yeah, it seems like a prudent time to do it if the board agrees.
Go ahead.
We will have to edit it a little bit just for the board organization.
Signature line?
Oh, yeah. Believe those would be non-substantive changes.
Yeah, fixable.
Any other questions or comments? There are none. We'll turn it over to public comment. Any public comment on the tax sale policy?
See any hands?
Seeing none, is the board ready for a motion?
I make the motion to select board approve the revised tax sale policy.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Don, thank you. Andy? Final call for discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. That, we will move along to approval of rules and regulations for orderly conduct of business. Did we have any questions, concerns, comments on this item?
I will just note, so these next three are, as Kendall just alluded to, policies that you see every year, kind of serves as governing documents for the select board. We have not proposed any changes for the next two, but for the rules and regulations of orderly conduct, staff has proposed a couple of changes. Just in regards to the consent items, Tracy, you kind of touched on this at the beginning of the meeting. This would just be looking to codify that and explain what consent items are and the process for either speaking to them or removing them from consent to handle under business. But apart from that, it's the same rules and regulations that you've had for the past few years.
Questions, comments? Concern?
Now, if we approve this, I won't be able to ask that question ever again.
Say, go look at the policy. Seeing none from the board, is there any public comment, questions on the orderly conduct of business policy? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make the motion Select board approve the rules and regulation of orderly conduct of business with change.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Andy. Final call for discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Moving along to the conflict of interest policy. Questions, concerns, general comments.
No changes.
There were no changes
I
in this
didn't see
one.
any red.
Good. With no discussion from the board, any comment from the public? Conflict of interest policy.
Any hands?
Seeing none, bring it back to the board. I would entertain a motion.
Make the motion, the select board approve the town of Essex conflict of interest policy.
Thank you, Ethan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Andy. Final call for discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. 6E is the communications policy. Is there any discussion, comments, concern from the board? Seeing none. Public comment on the communications policy. Also seeing
Nope.
none, bring it back to the board.
Make the motion, the select board approve the town of Essex communications policy.
Ethan?
Second.
Thank you, Andy. Final call for discussion. No, I have to look over to my left. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask that I'm finding it very confusing about when select board members can participate in certain things. Andy mentioned once that if two members talk about something and a third member hears it, technically you've had a quorum and you're not supposed to do that. But that means that if two members go to, like, say, the political talks on Saturday and another member goes to listen, I can't go, right? So it can only be two.
Correct.
And that goes with everything, right? Whether it's on Facebook or,
Yep.
or anything. Okay.
And that's why, for best practice, if you do anticipate there was an invite for a legislative type gathering in town that went to multiple members of the select board. So at that point, we would just want to have a discussion, because we could always warn that as a meeting, so that we are abiding by open meeting law.
Okay. Thank you.
That's why Tracy doesn't wish me a happy birthday, because you and Don always do it on Facebook.
Facebook is the bane of existence for open
April
meeting law.
Fools.
All right. Seeing no other board comments or questions on the communication policy, do we have any public input or comment on the policy as presented?
Hands up.
Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I already did a motion.
That?
I already gave you a motion for this one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. We were doing the second discussion,
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's okay.
gotcha. Okay, well, we
can-
doubled our efforts on public input there. So we do have a motion, and it was seconded. So at this point, I would ask everybody voting in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Next on our agenda is consider the approval of the select board meeting schedule for 2024-2025. We have discussed this in previous meetings. As noted in the packet, I believe the only input was to possibly start meetings at 6 o'clock as opposed to 6:30. So at this point, I would go ahead and open it up for board discussion.
I got my hand up.
Go for it.
I'm okay with 6:30 as long as the public is. You know, for a long time, meetings were at 7:30, then they moved to 7, then they moved to 6:30, and back in the day, I was typically the one that objected to moving it earlier because I was a working person and didn't get home from work until 5:30 and wanted to have dinner with my family. So that's where I'm a little concerned about moving it to 6 o'clock, but I can do it. But I think that's where I might have a little heartburn.
I like 6:30.
So my question was for the later meeting, because I know that was the consensus on the polls, but is this gonna replace the select board meeting, or are we gonna have strategic meeting? Because normally we did like an all day strategic, right?
Yeah, so what we're talking about now
Saturday.
is just the regular meeting schedule for regular meetings.
Oh, did I
So you're
skip?
on the wrong
Yep.
one. You skipped
Yeah,
one there.
You skipped ahead.
Okay.
But to answer your question, the idea is that the strategic planning session would be in addition to the regular select board
Okay.
schedule.
Okay, I'm back to the other one.
Okay. What
Yeah.
say you?
I didn't even notice this one. Like 6:30.
You like 6:30?
Yeah.
I have to be honest. I do like 6:30. I could do 6, just like Andy said, 6 or 6:30.
Okay.
Sorry, Tracy.
No, that's okay. I just threw it out there for discussion, so we're having discussion about it, so everything's good. So we've heard from the board. I'd like to turn it over to the public. Does anybody have any public input on the select board meeting schedule for this year?
Don't see any hands.
Okay. Got like 6:30. All right, seeing none, bringing it back to the board. Does someone want to make a motion?
I make the motion the select board approve the proposed meeting schedule for 2024 and 2025.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. Final discussion.
Thank you for taking care of all the holidays. There's a lot of them.
All right, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of approving the meeting schedule for the select board meetings for this coming year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Now we're on approval of the date for the select board strategic planning session. So as we have mentioned earlier, and we have done our scheduling polls, this is a meeting to set sort of our work plan for the coming year, identifying strategic goals, prioritization of those. And there is a recommendation, and it looks like we're deciding between evening on May 8th or afternoon on May 9th.
Now, before we decide, is this going to be long enough time to do this plan? Because this is what we used to take all day to do, and now you're telling us we're doing it in 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
I think it'll be enough time, and we could always do 4.5 hours if you think that you want a little bit longer. I think I'm not sure if we ever done a full day.
It's the same timing as last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before that, it was longer.
Okay.
But last year it wasn't facilitated, and so we
Right.
and this isn't either, so we kept the format of the time the same.
Okay.
But I think it went probably to 4 hours. Like to your point, I think anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5.
Didn't we get lunch on Saturday?
Yes, we got.
We got
something.
pizzas from Mimos.
We got
No, I think that they had
Or
hot
sandwiches.
bagels. I brought
And
in
Bartones.
donuts.
I remember it was a while, but
We can double check. I do think this will be enough time. The idea is to kind of come up with a pretty good final draft of what you want to accomplish, bring it back to the next meeting to finalize that. So there's always going to be a little bit more time for discussion at the next meeting if need be, and we can adjust that. I think we're going to need more time. We can plan on trying to have a light agenda otherwise on the following meeting.
So for additional input, May 8th is a Wednesday. So evening on Wednesday, May 8th, or afternoon on Thursday, May 9th.
Would rather do evening myself, 8th. I'm flexible.
I was
What do you
shooting
I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah. I thought that we were further out, and I didn't ask Alexis earlier. I'm doing hunter safety with Parker. So I would prefer to do earlier, but I know Monday, Wednesday won't. Neither one of those will work because I'll be in hunters. Like 7 to 9.
Okay. So with Thursday, May 9th.
Thursday would be best, but I could also do like Thursday 5 to 8:30.
What is it?
You know what I mean? I don't know if Thursday afternoons didn't work for anybody or.
Yeah.
The evening, I think.
I think.
Or evenings, I mean.
Yeah, I can't remember why Thursday evening didn't work. I'm guessing there's probably a scheduling conflict in here. I don't know if that's the only
probably
reason
planning
or if
commission.
there's
Planning
more.
commission.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because I'm pretty sure it's April. I'm lost in months and days and weeks. Should be done by then, I think. If not, be okay.
What time does planning commission start? Is it 6:30?
6.
I believe they're at 6.
6.
6.
Yeah, I'll be okay either way.
Wednesday night, you mean?
Oh yeah, whatever. I can give you my list. If you agree with it, great. And if you agree too. My kid's only 8 years old. Been studying for weeks.
So will that Wednesday evening work?
I think so.
Would you be here?
Maybe.
Oh, okay. I just said give a list, so I didn't know if that meant you were
I
gonna
really
not
don't know.
attend.
I thought we were on a different. I didn't see 5 and.
He said he thought it was
I
in
saw
April,
2
not May.
dates.
Right.
Well, I saw 2 dates when I got the last message. Now there's 5 dates. I'm okay with either one.
What Thursday afternoon works? Is that right? Oh, okay.
And-
That Wednesday, I think the 8th or the 9th should be fine.
Okay. I was just thinking about to be able to gather some public input during that session. It may make sense to steer clear of typical working hours and do it the evening of Wednesday. I'm not hearing a clear preference from anyone, so I just want to offer that as a.
I said Saturday, but nobody liked that. I love Saturdays. Then you can have all the public. I said that last week, but you were not last week.
Yep.
And we didn't really discuss it much because of everybody.
Well, given that the staff can meet on Wednesday, May 8th from 5 to 8:30, I think that's a good idea. And that's what I'd like to motion. Does that help?
Yep, before we do a motion, I'd like to ask if any member of the public has feedback on the dates for the strategic planning session.
See any hands?
Seeing none, back to the board.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Is it okay if I open my cell phone to look at a picture my wife sent me of the schedule?
If it's for the
And I
purposes of
can
this
send it
meeting
to
that
anybody who
we're
wants it?
talking about right now, I would say yes, that's covered
Okay.
in the.
I'm not sending
in the
any
policy.
messages. I'm just looking at.
Hunter safety schedule.
Yeah, because I know
Yep.
she sent it to me and
Nope, I'd rather check now rather than.
we'll see. I sent it to you. I know you did. I just don't remember anything. Oh, wow. What do you- Yeah, it'll be alright either way.
Okay.
Sorry.
Someone like to make a motion?
I forgot all about
I
it.
make the motion that the select board hold a strategic planning meeting Wednesday, May 8th from 5 to 8. I'm going to make that 5 to 9 p.m. so we warn it with enough time.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Andy. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Our strategic planning will be on Wednesday, May 8th in the evening. Next up, we do have consider appointment of volunteer to Police Community Advisory Board. We did have Mr. Kusiti, who we interviewed about a month ago, month and a half ago. But the posting date hadn't met that 30-day period, so we did not choose to make a motion at that time. I believe he is the only person still who has applied. This was warned as a potential executive session item, but if someone has a preference at this point, we can discuss an open session.
I'm okay.
Let me put it this way, would anyone like to discuss this in executive?
I don't have a problem saying what I need to say in public. It's not a problem.
Okay.
The man was very nice, but I'm not sure he understands exactly what CAB is. And we really need somebody that's going to understand what CAB's mission statement is. And I think watching the meetings, that's been kind of an issue, that they're not sure where they're going, but we kind of need somebody on that board that knows what their mission statement was, what they're being asked to do. Not saying he couldn't come up to speed, but I think we need somebody that's has more awareness of the diverse population.
Understand. I will note, I hesitate to note it because it's consider appointment of volunteer. Okay, it meets the criteria. We do have 2 seats that the term does expire June 30, 2024. So we may be able to change our approach a little bit on trying to get other folks. I don't really know where I'm going with that, but to John's concern, maybe we could reach out through other avenues.
Well, I would just note that he had a lot of energy, and it is new, but if he was given clear direction from the start to really focus on what the mission is, since we've got 2 more seats gonna end in June. The volunteer with energy is better than no volunteer at all.
I was just curious. I'm looking it over because I was thinking 3 years in my head, but there's no date. There's no term listed.
Remaining term ending.
Oh,
June
remaining
30.
term. Oh, it says vacant right there.
Yep.
Okay. You're right. I was looking in the memo all over for it.
It happens now and
It's in the chart.
Please keep in mind too that the advisory seat that's filled by Jody Kamen, that's not going to get reappointed. That was just a
Gotcha.
1-year, one and done.
Okay. Any other comments? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make the
Go ahead.
motion.
Aye.
I wasn't in the interview, so maybe I shouldn't be the one making the motion. I was
don't think there's
absent.
anything prohibiting you
I was
from doing
absent
so.
that meeting, but there's no conflict of interest, so I'm going to go for it. I make the motion that the select board appoint Vince Cuccitti to the vacant seat on the CAB.
Thank you. Andy, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ethan, final discussion? All those in favor of appointing Mr. Kuchuti, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Oppose, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. The next two items are for executive session. So we'll go ahead and skip over to the reading file. Board member comments, I will go ahead and take the privilege of saying, Andy, thank you for the last 2 years, I believe, as chair. 3?
Yeah.
Oh,
It feels like 2, but
3.
it was 3. I forget, the whole year of separation negotiation is blocked from my memory, so it feels like 2, but it really was 3.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Kendall, for re-upping again this year. Other board member comments?
I have two. One of them just popped in my head, but the first one was the information we got from the Court of Justice was awesome. Reading through all that, and the information may not be awesome, but what they're doing for the community is awesome. I think it's very important that other on them as clearly and positive. And then the second board member comment just popped in my head because Andy was saying this is my third reorganizational meeting. I was clerk and now Kendall was clerk twice. Popped into my head.
Any other board member comments? With that, does anyone have the motions for executive session handy?
I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee in accordance with 1 VSA, section 313A3, to include the town manager.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. And I always forget, we do vote on these individually, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the select board make the specific finding that the general public knowledge of contracts would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Don, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss contracts pursuant of 1 VSA 313A, 1A, to include town manager, deputy town manager, and the town representative to the Chittenden County Communications Union District.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Did we miss the first motion on the CCUD one?
No.
Premature?
Actually did that. We did that.
I said,
We did
Yeah.
3 motions, yeah.
Yeah, but there's,
oh, and I must not have it here, 'cause that's all I have.
let me double check
No,
myself.
there was the possibility of going into executive session to
Oh, that's
discuss the
right,
cab
there are.
appointment.
Nope, I apologize. I was seeing 2 in the CCUD item when you were making the motion for the evaluation. I apologize, that was my mistake. We do have potential action, so we may be coming back after executive. Sounds good. All right, so with that, we are in executive session. Thank you.